local history, local culture, local events, your community. This is the Joe Kelly Show.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Frank Tomato's our guest. We're doing a little social distancing here. And whenever Frank comes in, we talk about local history. Frank is, of course, the history columnist for the Observer-Dispatch. He continues to write his column after all those many years. And he's an active volunteer at the United County History Center. And he is the author of History Just for the Fun of It. Frank, always good to see you, my friend.
Great to be here, Joe.
The pandemic, Frank, that's certainly in the news. And this isn't the first time, though, a pandemic has hit Utica area. There was a cholera pandemic, yes?
Yeah, you know, history has a habit of repeating itself. And what we're going through right now with the virus, Utica and the Upper Mohawk Valley went through the same thing in 1918 with the Spanish flu, and back to 1832, 5 months after Utica became a city in February 1832. In late July and early August, the Asiatic cholera, they call it epidemic, but it was a pandemic. I mean, it started in India, spread to Russia, then Europe, England, found its way across to America and Canada mainly, and then New York City, and then Albany, and eventually Utica.
How bad was Utica hit, Frank?
How
badly was Utica hit?
Pretty bad. I mean, it was almost a month. Came in August and ended in September, but there were 65 died, and there were 206 cases. The population of Utica at that time was about 8,000, but it really hit Utica hard. When word reached Utica that the disease, cholera, had reached Albany, and there was a fear that with the many stagecoaches coming, going between Albany and Utica, and the Erie Canal, the packet boats, that eventually it would reach Utica, and of course it did. But when word reached Utica that the disease had reached Albany, the mayor, Utica's first mayor, Joseph Kirkland, and the Common Council went to work. They created a Board of Health, and all Uticans were ordered to use lime and cholera to purify their homes.
What did they do, Frank? They spread the lime right in the houses?
Lime and cholera, yeah, use it right in their houses. In fact, it was suggested, now this is in the middle of summer, that they light small fires in every room and open the windows, light small fires to and whitewash their walls, do anything to purify their homes. Even their streets in front of their properties, property owners were told to use lime and cholera to purify the streets.
Were they encouraged to go outside, Frank?
Well, you know, one thing, not much has been written about it. So I don't know if they wore masks or if they were, you know, like today you had the social distancing, that type of thing. But when it did hit, on August 14th, 1832, a man named Philo Rockwell lived on Washington Street. Of course, at that time, Utica was mainly around Bagg Square, 8,000 people. He was the first one to die. And really, Uticans panicked. Even though the city had set up small temporary hospitals on Oneida Square, on State and Columbia, around Chancellor Park, many people panicked. And as I said, the population was 8,000. about 3,000 fled, left the city, mainly north to the Adirondacks. Anything to get away from that disease.
Frank, when you say the city set up small hospitals, did we have a permanent hospital, and were these small hospitals they set up?
1832, no. Because the really first hospital was the old General Hospital, which was on South and Mohawk, and then, of course, St. E's. But that was in the 1860s. Utica had just become a city. There was never a village hospital. So these are temporary places. And also, some of the poor people couldn't afford lime. And so the city bought, I think, 50 pounds of lime and distributed it to poor people. I mean, it was really a mess.
Yeah.
All churches closed, like today, and businesses, factories closed, schools there were schools open in the summer in those days. All the schools closed. Utica, everything stopped. And as I said, just about every day, 2 or 3 people would, in all 206, I think was the final total, in 1 month, got it.
We don't do the, because of the COVID, Frank, we're not doing funeral home, we're not doing wakes, we're not doing services. Did that stop as well?
Yes, it did stop. In fact, about 20 years later, the Utica Daily Press wrote a story about the 1832 epidemic. And it mentioned how as soon as someone would die, they would be buried right away. There was no, the family didn't have a chance for a funeral. Of course, churches were closed. So if they died at 10 in the morning, by 11 o'clock they were buried. So it disrupted everything. And again, this happened, Utica had become a city in February, and here it was 5 months later. And later, the mayor, Joseph Kirkland, who was 60 years old at the time, received a lot of praise for he was not one of the ones who fled. And he stayed, and he was seen at temporary hospitals, guiding the people, trying to tell the people what to do. If someone needed lime, he would be there. He stayed, and he never contracted the disease. But he received a lot of credit, Joseph. Just a little aside.
Can you hang on to that little aside for a second?
What?
Hang on to that little aside
sure, no
for
problem.
1 second.
No
We'll
problem.
take a commercial break right here, but then we'll be back. Frank Tomano, we're talking, this is history repeating itself again, as Frank said. Short break, right back.